Welcome to another meeting of TV Holics Anonymous. Welcome to another meeting of TV Holics Anonymous. My name is Ruru, and I am a TV holic. Mimi's not here because we've got scheduling conflict. Not conflict, but we can't really figure out what day to record this. So to record like an episode, not this one because she doesn't watch this show, but I'm just trying to like fill in the gaps. So I recorded this because this is the show that I recently watched. I have watched the previous season, so we're talking about Night Agent. I watched it when it first came out, season 1, and then watched season 2, and then recently on February 19th, 2026, Night Agent season 3 was released. And basically, if you haven't watched the other seasons, you probably have if you're listening to this kind of review, like recap kind of thing of my thoughts and feelings about this season. You probably know already that it's about Peter Sutherland, and it's like a gritty, like I think all about 10 episodes, 8 and 10, between 8 to 10 episodes each season. I think this one was 10 episodes, and it's like it has like an arc. An arc develops basically in each season. So there's kind of like, okay, let me just refer to my notes. So he's basically in this season, he's just like, okay, let me just get to the bit I didn't like. I don't like the fact that Rose and him are like a running theme. Rose and Peter are a running theme in like the show. They both started the show together and it was about her and him. Basically, he kind of saved her in season 1, and then they became really close and romantically entangled. And I don't like the fact that they basically cut her out of this season, and they just referred to her a few times as, his love interest. I don't know. I haven't heard anything through the grapevine or like through the gossip blogs or anything like that, or like anything that Netflix is releasing about season 4, if there will be a season 4 or not, and whether or not Rose will be featured in there, because sorry, I'm losing my voice, because I really don't want to watch the show if they don't put Rose in season 4, because I feel like that's what we watch the show for, those two, to see their character development together and see how they continue like their lives intertwined. Like she's like a tech person and he's like who he is, secret service, night agent, basically agent. So yeah, I wanted to see that, and I'm really pissed off and I'm really angry basically at you, Netflix. Sort this out, make sure she's in season 4, and make sure that you never cut her out of it again. And hopefully there is a season 4, because season 3, it wasn't my fave because of what happened, but it kind of did, not because of what happened with Rose. They cut her out, but they did kind of like tie up a lot of loose ends that they started in season 2, with the whole I'll just get into it in a second. So yeah, basically it's like he's like leaving behind like his romantic like situationship with Rose, and he focuses on like the international like espionage and financial corruption stuff that he kind of like stumbled upon last season at the end, and then he's basically dealing with the I'm tongue-tied, the consequences of his actions in that season, because from season 2, because he had to take help from the quote unquote bad guy, to help save Rose and a whole bunch of other people from another bad, terrible situation. So he feels like responsible, so that's why he's kind of like trying to fix that. And he also is like basically tackling the conspiracy involving the broker, and basically the president is involved, and he's got a new partner in this season. And I think that basically they did this to I think I think basically they cut Rose out because they wanted to, like focus on like making like growing Peter's character, because they can't really grow his character if he's got a weakness like Rose constantly. Like he has to keep like going back to save Rose all the time, and people keep using Rose as leverage against him. So it's a bit difficult and tricky, but that's no reason to cut her out, I think, personally. So yeah, let's just talk about episode by episode. So like the first episode I thought was a bit like boring. I know it had like loads of different like destinations, but still I thought it was quite boring. It was called, I think it's called Cool Waiting. And so basically we see Peter in the Dominican Republic on a mission before he's like being assigned to like find Jay Buttra, if I'm saying that right. Um and this guy is like a treasury analyst who supposedly stole files and fled to Turkey, to Istanbul, after his like boss was killed. So they think, the powers that be, the government think that, and the intelligence services think that Jay is like involved in some nefarious activity, and that's why they sent Peter to, apprehend him. And I I think they could have done this a whole lot better, because it was just all like, a bit messy, and I was like losing interest at this point, which I normally like. This show is pretty good, and I just felt like it would have been, like I said, a lot better if they added Rose in there as well. But I'm sure they were just doing this to like for character development of Peter, but like I said, I wasn't really feeling it. And then Peter basically he like uh yeah, so I think that they think at this point, that when I was watching, that they think Jay, was like the baddie, and they want to like uncover why he did what he did and all that stuff. So that's why they sent Peter after him. So Peter basically discovers the files related to the Puma 12 airline attack situation, which was funded by US companies. So that was like something he uncovered during episode 1. And then episode 2 basically was about like the package deal. It was called Package Deal. And Peter basically meets the journalist Isabel, who we later find out is, well, I'll get into that in a bit. So Isabel de Leron, um, and she becomes like a key like ally to like Jay and to Peter, and like integral part of the story basically. Um, and then there's like a planned trade of like Jay for security, and it goes wrong, resulting in the death of like Catherine, Peter's handler at as a night agent, or as like a agent in general, because I know they've been shuffling him around different places, especially in this season. And then they kind of quickly got over her death, which was like really like, that's a woman that he's been dealing with for like a really long time as his boss, and I hated the fact that they just killed her off. Like, why would you just kill her off? And then the people that he was dealing with, like that other guy, um, working with Catherine, he wasn't like, there was not much interaction between him and Peter either. It was just mainly him and the president like interacting. It was just all very like, not, it wasn't making any sense, because the president definitely would not deal with things like that. I don't know, like you have people doing things for you like that. Anyway, I'm digressing. Episode 3, it's called Dark Matters, and Peter basically is like paired with Adam, and Adam is like, the president's former like military buddy, like his commanding officer. So that's why the president really trusts him. And he's appointed to Peter by the president, President Hagen, who suspects Peter is basically double dealing. And then also we've got like a bit of Chelsea Arrington from, I believe, season 2 or season 1. Like, I can't remember, but she's kind of like in this episode as well. I mean, in this season as well. And she's now like working in the White House, and she realizes at some point that the First Lady is involved in illegal activity because the First Lady like is supposedly attacked. She pretends that she's attacked by um I think like one of the catering staff or like the chef or something like that. And then she shouts, "He's got a gun!" So, you know, Chelsea comes in and shoots the guy. And then she's questioning herself because she can't see the gun. There's no gun. And she's wondering why the First Lady said that when there was no gun and stuff like that. There's a lot of loose ends that I didn't like in this show that were not basically tied up. Anyway, so episode 4, let's move on. To episode 4. It's called Orion, and Peter and Isabel basically investigate Senator George Lansing, and I believe they go up to his go up to like a hunting cabin and like do like like kind of like undercover like detective work. And he is like murdered by the assassin, who is Bill from the British guy Bill from True Blood, a show that I used to watch, a vampire show a long time ago. And yeah, so I was like shocked to see Bill Compton there. I don't know if he was the best choice for this because I can't believe that he's pretty old now, and I can't believe that he is like running around and getting the best of Peter Sutherland, who is like 20, 30 years his junior. It's not really realistic. I feel like you're not going to be doing this in your like 50s or 60s. I don't know how old he is exactly, but it's not really adding up. The math ain't mathing. And basically, yeah, so, Bill Compton, shoots that guy in the head, the Senator George Lansing, and then Peter like has like a little bit of inkling of like distrust for like Adam, but Adam kind of like saves him from this like event. I think this is how they meet because the president went to go see Adam and get him involved in this situation, and also when he went to go see him, his Secret Service agent Chelsea was there, so she kind of like met him in that situation. So then episode 5, it's called The Isolation Place. So Peter and Adam basically track down the broker at a casino, and then they have like all these casino hijinks. And Chelsea basically confirms that the First Lady has been like laundering money to the broker. And I think this is like the turning point, like everything, like, we all become aware as the audience that there's like a lot more at play than like first meets the eye. Then episode 6, it's kind of like murky. It's called Murky Waters, and it's kind of like it's kind of like we get like everything's like revealed to us. It's revealed that Isabel is like the estranged daughter of the broker because she goes to go see Jacob Monroe, her dad, and it's kind of slowly revealed like because Peter and Adam go to do some surveillance, and Peter finds out through watching and through like listening in through her phone that they kind of like commandeered as like a listening device. Yeah, that she is the like daughter of Jacob Monroe, and then Monroe is now like dying of cancer, so they find that out as well. And Peter tells um oh no, Monroe tells no. So Monroe's now dying and tells Peter that Freya Myers is behind the hit on them. So Freya Myers is the banker. She works for the bank, so that's why she wants to she's put out hits on, she's got Bill Compton basically to put out hits. I think it's really cute that they had put the kid in there for Bill. Well, I don't know what his name is on the show, but he's the assassin, so they put the little kid, he's got a kid there. I thought that was like a little cute like storyline, and you're always constantly worried, like I was always constantly worried that something's going to happen to the little kid. Yeah, so Freya's put the hit out on Isabel and Jacob and a bunch of other people. I think Peter at one point as well, and some other stuff as well. So then episode 7, like we're gonna swiftly move on. It's called Once Upon a Time, and it's basically a flashback, and it reveals Monroe's past, Jacob Monroe's past, as like part of like he was like a CIA asset when he was doing business with like a drug dealer who was also into like arms dealing and stuff like that. So basically, they like go back in time and show us what happened with Isabel's mum and how like they kind of humanize Jacob Monroe, and we realize that he is what he is because he was kind of used by the American government, and they kind of like dumped him and uh kind of made his life hell, and they didn't care. They just used him for what they could, and they let his girlfriend, who was pregnant with their child, like, rot in prison because of uh the, nefarious gangster that was um that he was working with and all that stuff. So it kind of humanizes him, and I did feel sorry for Jacob Monroe, and I did feel like I understand his villain origin story. So they gave us like a really good villain origin story for him. So yeah, so it's just like it's showing his past and his like love for Isabel's mum, who's basically sacrificed, as I said, by the agents, by the FBI or the CIA agents, and Peter basically bargains with Monroe for like more information. And then episode 8 is where truth be it's called Truth Be Told, and the first lady, Jenny Hagen, basically confesses her involvement to the president, and he's pissed about the situation, but quickly turns and is just like cool with like killing a bunch of people to protect his secret about being funded by Jacob Monroe and like all that that blood money that he was getting. And then the president orders I forgot his name. Anyway, orders Adam to basically kill Jacob Monroe to protect his secret about the funds. And Adam does that, and he kind of like frames it as, he shot himself in the head. But Isabel is not buying this crap because Isabel knows her father better, and they kind of all like have a little powwow because Chelsea's there at I was going to say Adam's apartment, but it's not Adam's apartment, Peter's apartment, and they kind of like put two and two together, and also then try and convince Peter, who is like reluctant at first to believe that Adam could be like involved in this situation, but then he kind of like realizes it. And then episode 9, Lockstep, Peter realizes that President Hagen is corrupt, and Isabel and Jay crack the Monroe drive. They like siphon the code and all that. That was like a whole process, but that was pretty boring. I know it was meant to be like an aha moment, but it was really pretty boring. And then it's kind of like reveals the president and Adam to be like controlling the night action program, and like how everything's like all messed up. And then episode 10, the last episode, Peter convinces Adam to stop the attack, and Freya is basically killed by the father, um, the father of that little kid who is the assassin. And the president pardons himself and his wife, and Peter takes a break, and the season ends with him like looking for peace. So I thought that was like such a crappy ending. Like, how is he just going to pardon himself? I guess like the current president probably has pardoned himself like a lot of times, and like I think in America, I don't know, but yeah, like I think there's a lot of things that just don't make sense. Like, why would the president like not go after them and kill them as well if he knew like they've exposed all this information on him like to the world? Um and I just feel like there's so many major deaths in this season, and it's just like not unnatural, but it's like unnecessary. Like all these people got killed, and like Adam tried to kill Chelsea, and then everyone's just cool with that because he just didn't understand what was going on, and like Adam just like let him go and didn't shoot Peter in the head, where he had no problem like killing Chelsea and all that. Like he was about to kill Chelsea, and then Chelsea saved herself along with Peter. Like it was just all a mess. And then everyone's names supposedly are cleared now, and the president's not going after any of these people, and there's like no repercussions to his actions. That just feels like it doesn't sit well with me. So I just want to talk about like the main things that I noticed. Like there's no like I said, there's like a lot of guilt and responsibility, and Peter like is overwhelmed by like the consequences of his actions from like season 2, and he's basically attempting to like rectify his mistakes by like getting the broker, Jacob Monroe, and like bringing everything to justice. And basically I think this season is based on like current events in America, and like it's tackling things like corruption at the very like top level, like in Congress and in the White House maybe, and all that stuff as well. So the central conspiracy, I think, is basically just involving the president and the first lady, who have like compromised the integrity of like how they got into office, because they took money from like the broker, and he basically got them into the White House, and they were like puppets for him basically, in a sense, because they owed him something. And the cost of the truth in this episode, in this season as well, like it like you see that the whistleblowers get like gunned down, journalists face death as well, and everything is just in order to cover up the crimes of the people at the top. And like you see that Peter's like desperately always trying to like maintain that he wants to stay on the straight and narrow, and he's a good person, and you keep having flashbacks to his past with his mum, and like before she had a cancer diagnosis and all that, and it's like it's very touching and everything. And yeah, there's a lot of whistleblower situations going on, and people want to whistleblow, but they're being gunned down. And then also like you see that he like builds like a new friendship, a new alliance with Isabel de Laron, in this season, the journalist who happens to be that he finds out later is the daughter of Jacob Monroe, and she serves like as like one of the professionals in this season, and like she's very like intellectual, and she's a great partner in this season for Peter, not like in the romantic sense, but I think as in like a partner for like kind of like like those detective shows, like everyone's always partnered up. It's kind of like that, I feel. And yeah, so they didn't include Rose, but um I did find out some information why they didn't include Rose. So apparently, the creator Sean Ryan stated that the decision to omit Rose, um, Luciana, or uh, I don't know how to say the name. Okay, whatever. That's her real name. The actress was purely like a creative decision, and after the intense romantic centric stories of season like 2, the writers felt it was time for Peter to be like focusing on himself and like his growth in season 3, basically for like character development, and like they wanted like a more gritty field agent, a night agent who needed to be free of like any personal attachments that could like jeopardize him. Exactly what I thought. And then there was also controversy, and the reception. Fans were like really disappointed by the removal of like the core character Rose, causing some backlash. And many arguing that the show's chemistry was lost. I do feel that, like I said at the start. Right now, I'm just reading off like things that people have said, like comments that have been made in the media. And then Isabel versus Rose. So debates raged over whether Isabel was a direct replacement, despite showrunners stating that Isabel's role was meant to provide like a different dynamic not like a romantic dynamic. And then tonal shifts. Some viewers found the season to be less romantic and more focused on corporate and governmental intrigue, and making it feel different from the initial will they, won't they feel of season 1. And I feel that too. So I was like deeply upset by the fact that they didn't have Rose, because it didn't feel like the same show that I was watching from season 1. It felt like, something they tried to like cut someone out and, replace her with someone else. And also it felt like they were trying to go a totally different angle with the show, which is like crazy. If something's working and people like it, why would you like totally turn that upside down and destroy the momentum that you had? And I feel like maybe it cost them the whole like show, because maybe a lot of people stopped watching, because there was points when I thought I can't keep watching this. And then I just thought, let me just power through just to see what happens in the end. And like I said, I was not very happy with this season. Season 1 and season 2 were great. This season was a bit for me. I think they could have done a lot better. I think what they got wrong was the whole Rose situation, because the whole Rose situation is what made people like want to watch. People want to see like the romantic entanglements that these agents have and stuff like that, to make it, like worth watching. We just don't want to see like total action, action, action. We want it broken down with like, relationships and stuff like that. Just my personal thoughts and opinions on this whole show. Like I said, I hope that season 4 is better, and they bring Rose back and they do like a whole not explanation, but they like make her integral role in the show again. And like, I really want their lives intertwined more on the show. And hopefully they like up the ante and like the stakes are higher, because now the president will be definitely gunning for Peter as well, because him and all his like allies, because he, was stopped from, doing bad things. And we can see that he's a very bad president, and hopefully they could take him down. What was it? Not Higgins, Hagen, President Hagen. They could take him down, and they could like, you know, justice could be served in season 4, basically, and Rose could help bring this all down with her tech skills somehow. Those are just my thoughts anyway. So like I always say, and Mimi always says, I hope you guys like this episode and share with all your friends and family if they watch this and they like you have like differing thoughts. I'd love to hear your comments and opinions, and we'd love for you to follow the podcast on whatever platform you're listening to us on, and like and share, and tweet about us. We're also on social media as well, so follow us there. On YouTube, you can listen to the podcast there, or whatever platform you listen to podcasts. We'd love like a 5-star review of the podcast as well. That would be great. And yeah, that's about it. Bye. And we'll be back definitely with a bunch of different Netflix shows. And we're going to be doing a lot more K-drama stuff. So we're going to be not K-dramas, but like Korean stuff. So we've got some more variety shows coming up. Remember that show, the show Physical Asia? So there's a spin-off from that where they went to Mongolia. So we're going to be doing that. We're also going to be dropping really soon some episodes. I don't know if it's going to come out before this or after this, on about this show, Agents of Mystery. That's another Korean variety show, which we really like, but that's going to be season 1. Season 2 will probably recap after we've recapped the Mongolia trip by the Physical Asia cast. And yeah, so we've got a lot coming up, and we've got way more after that as well. It's going to be a lot more reality TV, also like variety shows, and also like K-dramas as well. So stay tuned for all that. We're also going to be doing some Japanese reality TV shows and some Chinese reality TV and dramas and variety shows and all that stuff as well. So stay tuned. We've got so much coming up, and we're also going to be probably doing a lot more other stuff as well, that I can't really talk about yet. But if you follow us, give us a follow, and we'll be talking about it in the next few episodes, probably. What we're going to be doing, we'll discuss what we'll be doing. We're going to be probably creating a space for you guys so we can like interact more as like a community, because I know there's a lot of you listening to us. We're looking at the numbers and they're going up every week, and we're really thankful and grateful. And we see that you guys are listening to us from like different places, like the Netherlands. There's people from New Zealand, Belgium, Singapore. We love that you guys are listening, and we're really excited, and we want to do something like special for you guys. So we want a place for everyone, all of us, to like, talk and communicate and like get to know each other better and all that. So and then talk about these shows and stuff like that. So we want like to build like, a nice little comfy community where we can like, discuss stuff. So yeah, that is all coming up. So that's why I was telling you to subscribe, to follow. Click the follow button like right now as you're listening to the podcast, as you're listening to me talking. So click that, and me and Mimi will be back really soon. I will probably also be doing some more like K-drama episodes by myself as well. Just because there's some stuff that I have watched that Mimi hasn't watched. So yeah, I'll do those by myself. And then we want to keep up with the things that are coming out. I know that we're a bit late on these shows, but we're just bear with us, please, because we've got so much that we want to get through on this podcast. And we're like really excited to bring you as much as we can. So yeah, follow, like, share, all that stuff. Give us a 5-star rating. It would be really helpful, and it would, help us like encourage us a bit, because we are feeling a bit down that you guys aren't really giving us any ratings. We've seen that the retention is really good. Like, you guys are listening to the whole episode, so that's brilliant. Like, we love that, and we're so thankful and we're so grateful for you guys, and we just want to show our appreciation, like we said. And it would be so like, we'd really like you guys to give us those podcast reviews, because it would mean a lot to us, and we'd be so thankful. So yeah, thank you, and see you soon. Bye.